So we're back working on this Chrysler 300, and today we're going to change the reluctor ring on the right rear axle shaft. In a previous video I had figured that the magnetic reluctor portion of this ring has fallen off, decayed, and broken up. So rather than changing the whole entire axle shaft, we're going to change just the reluctor ring. Hopefully we can just remove the wheel bearing and access it. We'll see. So remove the brake caliper, brake rotor, parking brake shoes, and then the outer wheel bearing, and then you have access to the axle shaft. Here's what I found inside there. That's the magnetic reluctor portion of the reluctor. You can see it's kind of rubbery, and there's actually the steel portion of the reluctor still on the axle shaft. Like I said before, it's normally serviced by replacing this entire axle shaft, but that would require a removal or partial removal of this whole knuckle, and that's not going to be too pleasant with these seized rusty fasteners. Not that this thing probably doesn't need some rear suspension work, but that's a secondary issue at this point. So I'm going to pry off this reluctor ring in here and clean up the inside of this bore. Oh, and by the way, remove the speed sensor from the housing so that it doesn't get damaged, because it is sticking through slightly onto the nose of that reluctor. So we'll clean this all up and get that reluctor installed. So there's the steel portion of the reluctor pried off. So now we can push the shaft in and off to one side enough to get in there and clean up the bore and clean up the shaft, and then we'll press the new reluctor on there. So my plan is to use this fixture from my hub tamer kit to press that on carefully, slowly with the axle nut. So this should fit right over top of this axle nut, and push it on nice and straight. Make sure it goes on all the way. Yeah, it looks like it does. Well, we'll give that a try. So I ended up using a bearing race because I couldn't coordinate that, and I topped it on with this bearing race, and I managed to get it on nice and square, snug. So now it's just a matter of reassembling it. So we got that axle reluctor back in there, and the wheel bearing back installed, and brakes back installed. So we're going to go in, and I've already cleared the codes, but I'm going to look at data and look at the two rear speed sensor signals now. So this will be the left rear, and this will be the right rear. So I'm going to go and spin the wheels and hopefully have signals on both sides. Beautiful thing. So explain to me how we have a failed left speed sensor and at the very same time a failed right speed sensor reluctor. Oh well, that's what was throwing me off, is two failed sensors at the same time, figuring it was a common problem, but obviously it wasn't. So we'll take it for a road test, but I'm sure it's going to be fine.